Refugees are in the news. In Europe, a stampede of migrants, mainly young men, not a lot of women or children or old people or sick people, you know, the folks usually associated with the word refugee. A lot of people are rushing across the continent to Germany, where Chancellor Angela Merkel has announced free money. Seriously, she has announced a spending spree of $6.6 billion earmarked for the first 800,000 migrants who get there. That's $11,000 Canadian per person. And that's just her welcome basket, on top of the regular welfare and benefits that Germany's welfare state offers. 11,000 bucks a person? That's 5, 6, 10 times the per capita GDP in countries like Syria or Egypt. It's 20 times the annual per capita GDP in Afghanistan. This is a gold rush. Imagine if some miraculous country said they'd give you, as a Canadian, literally $1 million per person just for arriving there. And they were opening up their borders. That's 20 times our per capita GDP. That's how much of a magnet Angela Merkel's compassion is to the third world. But it's not about helping the weakest or the poorest. It's actually just helping the fittest young men who can make the journey the fastest, who can maybe scrape together a few $1,000 to pay smugglers to get them across the Mediterranean Sea from Arabia or Africa. According to the United Nations itself, almost 75% of migrants are men. Less than 15% are women or children each. All of this is in the name of Syrian refugees, refugees from the war there between Bashar Assad and Hezbollah and Iran and Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State and Al-Nusra, or maybe that's a three-sided war, a six-sided war, I don't know, except Europe's open borders are indiscriminate. No passports needed, no application forms, no reference checks. When you open your borders and offer an $11,000 prize for just getting to Germany, you're going to draw people from literally every country where they can fashion a boat or get on a train or even just walk. They are pouring through countries like Greece and Turkey, peaceful countries where any real refugee from war would be thrilled to land and stay, but they're not stopping there. They're en route for the cash payoff from Mama Merkel. That's what the media are calling Angela Merkel. They're cheering her on. The political elites, the bureaucratic elites, the media elites, there's a mania. The mania is here in Canada too, where campaigning politicians and campaigning journalists are outbidding each other to see who can say they want more migrants than the other guy. These migrants have been coming for months, of course, for years really, accelerated by the anarchy and disaster of the Arab Spring that has driven both genuine refugees and economic migrants and others, criminals, even terrorists, to get on boats and go to Europe. But the accelerator for these latest stampedes, the media and political stampedes plus the human stampede, was the death of a young Kurdish boy photographed on a Turkish beach last week. That caused a total panic in Canadian media circles, a lust more like it. Look at all these headlines, because according to this NDP member of Parliament, that boy on the beach had applied for refugee status from Canada and had been rejected. Except that wasn't true. He never applied for refugee status here. He had been living in Turkey, not Syria. There are no refugees from Turkey. His father had hired smugglers to take them from Turkey across the water. Other facts are now falling apart about the story, but the effect of a unanimous front page mania, both attacking our government and calling for open doors, Germany style, was set. Anyone who's against open doors now is called a racist. Journalists who were supposed to be skeptical are now cheerleaders. Like I say, it's a mania. Well, count us out. True refugees are people in real danger. Simply wanting more welfare than a place like Turkey provides doesn't make you a refugee. There are so many questions unanswered by the mainstream media because to ask and answer those questions would be to contradict their open borders campaign. I mean, what's the real truth about that Kurdish boy and his family? What's the truth about the people, mainly young men, arriving by boat every day? What has the Islamic State terrorist group said about its plans to infiltrate Europe, posing as refugees? What's the United Nations definition of a refugee anyways? And what are countries actually bound to do under international law? Hey, why haven't any rich Arab Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Oman and Bahrain and Kuwait, why aren't the countries that actually funded the war in Syria and Iraq, why haven't they taken any Muslim refugees? They're Muslim countries themselves. What's the responsibility of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, who evacuated the U.S. military from the region, creating a void allowing the Islamic State to create a terrorist country, and who also permitted Bashar Assad to continue his bloody civil war. What should we do here in Canada, and what should the US do, and what should European countries do? What are our moral responsibilities? And is it possible to solve the problem by moving the problem from the Middle East to Europe and North America? Or can we try to solve the problem over there? Is the problem even solvable? What conflict of interest might the open borders lobby have? Whether it's cheap labor or forced multiculturalism. Look, those are a lot of questions to ask, but we're going to ask them. That's why we've created this special website, thetruthaboutrefugees.com. Over the course of the next few weeks, we'll look at many different angles, different stories from this case, from a skeptical, conservative, and often contrarian point of view. Because that's what journalists should do. The other side, the media and politicians stampeding for our open borders, claim to be acting out of compassion, but it's not compassion to give unlimited charity to those who don't need it, and to ignore those who truly do, and to telegraph to the whole world that a frenzy is happening and everyone's invited to the party. That's a recipe for more strife, and for deepening antagonism, and for evaporating the goodwill in the West towards real refugees that exists. So come back to this site every day for more of the truth about refugees. I promise you, it'll have information you'll find nowhere else. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.